the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
Hey, here we go. Welcome to the show. Here's the question of the day. Can a marriage survive without trust? Probably not. Is trust one of those things either you have it or you don't? Or does it exist in varying degrees? Can you have trust in one area of your marriage but not in others? So today we're going to take a look at trust and how to grow it in your marriage. So trust me, you're going to enjoy this show. So I got 13 ways to build trust in a relationship. This is a story by Sherry Sharari. Sherry Sharari. That's a cool name, Sherry Sharari. All right, number one, be honest. Well, that's a shocker, right? Dishonesty is one of the biggest driving forces behind relationships that lack trust. Omitting the truth or lying entirely in situations you know will hurt your partner makes you unreliable. It's much better to be honest, even if the truth will hurt. It will hurt worse if a person lies to their partner. And it hurts a lot worse once the lie is discovered. And they almost always are discovered. It's pretty hard to get away with a lie for any length of time. Number two, be reliable. When you show your spouse that they can depend on you, you create the first ladder towards a relationship built on mutual trust and understanding. People who bail on their commitments, whether it's something minor, like just listening to your spouse when they have to vent or about something stressful, or, pulling through an emergency when, man, it's all hands on deck and you need to be there. But if you don't show up, then you're deemed unreliable and you're not going to be trusted, right? So you just got to follow through and do what you say you're going to do, period. Whether it's, make the bed, or empty the dishwasher or go visit your spouse's mother or something. You got to follow through. You got to be reliable. You got to be dependable. 3, practice open communication. Honesty isn't only about telling the truth. It's also about communicating your needs and experiences with each other openly. If you're hiding something about your spouse that bothers you and you let it go on, they're eventually going to feel betrayed when they find out what it's about. You didn't bring it up. It's best to be upfront and share your thoughts and feelings honestly, right? And I think one of the things I always, when I'm working with my couples, you would think it'd come more natural, but to be able to make the ask, okay? When there's something you need, it's okay to ask for it. There's this tendency to think, well, my spouse ought to know what I need. They ought to know what I'm thinking. They ought to know where my head is. They ought to know what I need. And, well, no, that's not the case. That just never happens, right? So don't be afraid to make the ask. If there's something you need from your spouse, make the ask. Don't keep it a secret, Do them a favor and help them learn how to love you better, right? Number 4, accept your mistakes. We all make mistakes, of course. It's natural. We're flawed. We're defective, right? We're not perfect at everything. However, refusing to accept your own mistakes and apologizing creates a gap in trust. Your spouse will feel betrayed by your lack of responsibility and will have a hard time trusting you going forward because you're not really being honest, right? This is because they think a person can't be trusted to accept their mistakes, and that person isn't reliable, right? So you've got to be able to own your behaviors and admit the fact that you got it wrong sometimes, right? So own your defects. You've got them. And if you're not sure what your defects are, it's a really simple way to find out. Just ask your spouse. Number 5, maintain healthy privacy. This is a pretty important one. While being in a marriage requires, couples to spend a lot of time together, it also is unhealthy to spend all of your time together. Every relationship needs some healthy privacy, giving each other space, to do your own thing, pursue your own hobbies, or, spend time with your own friends as well. So you gotta leave room for some privacy, or else resentment can build up. And one thing COVID taught us certainly was even the best marriages, man, if you're together 24/7, that's going to lead to some issues. Each couple works out their own balance of together time and away time, but you need some healthy privacy. Don't be jealous. Okay, number 6. While many people experience jealousy or possessiveness over their spouse, it's incredibly important to learn to trust your spouse, even if you haven't had, best luck in past relationships. what I find often, but what I find with couples end up in my office sometimes is if a previous relationship I was jilted, treated badly, cheated on, whatever, man, then I'm highly suspect that this person's going to do the same thing, even though we're married now. Or for couples that are dating, it's like, man, I got hurt in the past, and you might do it too. We condemn person B with the sins of person A, which is obviously not at all fair. But it's in our nature to protect ourselves from being hurt. And if I've been hurt in the past, I'm going to have a heightened awareness for anything that might suggest I'll get hurt again going forward, right? So you got to let go of the past, and you've got to be able to trust without being jealous, and trust that the other person is trustworthy, even when you're not together. All right, so 7, don't share your marital secrets with other people. Oh, let me repeat that one. Don't share your marital secrets with other people. This might sound obvious, man, but I've run into that problem quite a lot in the work I do. But sharing things your spouse told you in confidence with others breaks their trust. If they've been open about their experiences and insecurities and trust, keep them to yourself. You should do exactly that. Don't even bring up things to their parents, or siblings or best friends unless you've got permission, right? Never reveal your spouse's defects to anyone else, or say anything that would put your spouse in a bad light to other people. Never broadcast publicly your spouse's defects, or say anything that could put your spouse in a bad light with other people. Even if they've messed up big time and done something really stupid, better not to share those defects with people who are still going to be in your life after the two of you have actually fixed and healed whatever's going on, right? Number 8, don't send mixed messages, right? Treat each other with love and respect daily. Don't let things falter. And be consistent, okay? Just be consistent in your actions, right? Marriage, listen, is a lifetime commitment, right? And don't get lazy. Don't take your eye off the ball. We've heard, stories about people who get married and then retire, and they stop taking care of themselves, or they stop investing in the relationship. They stop investing in the spouse. They stop courting. They stop dating. They stop really taking good care of each other. You lose a lot of trust in that. Number 9, keep your promises, obviously. Keeping your promises shows that you're trustworthy. That's a no-brainer, right? That's from picking up the milk on your way home to making the dinner reservations to like the really big stuff, right? So 10, show empathy, right? It's natural to feel angry sometimes when you're in conflict, but try to understand your spouse's perspective before you let things get into an argument. Put yourself in their shoes and think how they might feel. Try to empathize and create a loving environment that will be safe enough for both partners to communicate openly, right? I think one of the most powerful things that you can say to your spouse is, wow, I can see how you would feel that way. I can see how you would be upset that I didn't do this thing I said I would do, or that I did this thing that I shouldn't have done. And I can see how you would feel that way. I can see how you'd be upset, and I'm sorry for that. That's really powerful. And then stop being defensive. I mean, defensiveness destroys a lot of trust, because it's like, most defensiveness tends to be cloaked in, if not lies, at least a little deception, right? At least a little bit of trying to gild the lily, a little bit of trying to just, put a positive spin on something that ain't all that positive, right? So get rid of the defensiveness. It just doesn't have a place in marriage. It does a lot of damage. So seek to understand and then to affirm your spouse, right? So if they're upset about something that happened outside the home, at work or with a friend or a relative, or, affirm. Say, yeah, wow, I would be upset if that happened to me too. I think you're absolutely right to be sad by that, or be hurt by that, or be angry by that. Absolutely. So affirming your spouse builds a lot of trust that you are the person I can turn to when I need to turn to somebody, and I know I can count on you being there. 11. And now this one, I think this is kind of an important one that might get overlooked a little bit. Respect your spouse's boundaries. And there's this thought, that, well, once we're married, the two are one and there should be no boundaries, no rules. Not true, okay? I mean, healthy relationships, don't diminish your individuality as well. You're still an individual. Yes, the two are one in marriage, but you're still an individual as well. So it's important not to pry or try to intervene in personal affairs with your spouse if you're not invited in to talk about it openly, right? And sometimes you just need to give them some space to decide when to come and talk to you about things, right? And so, it's important not to stick your nose in their business. Wait to be invited in. Don't go through their diary. Don't go through their journal. Don't go through their phone. You shouldn't have to do that in a marriage where there's trust, right? Respecting boundaries means respecting the person. And since I respect you, I will respect your boundaries. And I will give you the latitude to determine when you're going to open your heart to me and when not, when you need privacy, when you need me, when you need some time alone, etc. Take that serious. Respect your spouse's boundaries, right? 12, be supportive, right? Support their successes. Be there for them during the challenging times. Just knowing that your spouse cares enough to be there when it gets rough means an awful lot to your spouse. Being supportive helps marriages thrive and allows your partner to see you in a positive, supportive light. I mean, we all should be our spouse's biggest cheerleaders. There should be nobody who supports, encourages, affirms, praises, compliments our spouse more than we do. And if someone else is doing a better job of that than we are, well, I think we need to pick up our game there a little bit. And then finally, get interested. Stay interested. It's interesting. Here at work, we get people who start dating. We got a lot of young folks running around and they're beginning relationships and they're so interested in the person they're dating. They're asking questions and they're curious and they have wonderful conversations because they're so interested. Don't let that die out just because you're married. Deepen the bond by engaging your spouse in interesting conversations all the time, right? About what's going on in the world or what's going on with the kids or whatever, current affairs, right? Stay curious. One of the best gifts I think you can give your spouse is to stay curious about their world and what's going on. And sometimes it's kind of generic, right? Like, hey, how was your day today? Well, okay, but I don't know that there's a lot of sincerity in it, but it's kind of like, wow. So remember that today they had a doctor's appointment and say, okay, well, what did you find out? What did you learn? And, was the doctor on time? Did you have to wait a long time? And how do you feel about the appointment stuff? So get curious and remember what's going on in their world and write it down if you have to. If you're like me, your memory lasts about 3 nanoseconds. And so you got to write things down so that you can remember what's going on in your spouse's world, and hopefully you can be curious enough to engage, and that builds trust. So there's my thoughts today on trust in the marriage. You can't have a marriage without it, and don't leave it to chance. I mean, get serious about being dependable, following through on what you're saying, and putting your spouse's needs, your spouse's heart ahead of your own. That way your spouse will know that you always have his or her own best interest at heart. This entire episode of Marriage Unhindered is on the updated Relevant Radio app. The Relevant Radio app is completely free and updated daily with fresh articles, podcasts, and prayers.